We're gonna visit the root cellar. I believe I got just a handful of parsnips left. It's been a while since I've been down there, so they should still be good. It's been a cool spring. It's here at the end of July, so it'll be kind of exciting to see. Normally we've cleaned it out by now, by usually May. So we'll see how it's gone longer. Bumblebee. There she goes. Hope I wasn't building a nest down here. They tend to be solo characters, unlike the other bees. I need to start airing it out. You can see it's still very moist. But the sand, what I like to do is get it out, put it in bins, put it in the greenhouse, and dry it out for this upcoming season. Although we're not going to have too many root vegetables this year, unless I get around to planting some turnips and things of that nature for the fall. That's the nice thing about this root cellar. Initially I do moisten the sand, but after that I don't have to, because it drips from the ceiling. You can see all this water here that's collected. I usually try to cover most of my bins a little bit so they don't get too wet and things get mushy. But it's a good way to preserve your vegetables. There you go, not even soft. Turnip, it's not turnip, a parsnip. But that's nice to see that they lasted this long. Oh, that one's a little mushy. Go in the compost bin. You can see some of them got pretty big last year. It was a good crop of what? Now I say turnips, now that's all I want to say. A lot more in there than I thought. I didn't plant parsnips this year because we had so many last year that we weren't eating on. But this root cellar just works wonderful. I don't know if it was luck or God's grace or what have you, but this old technology works good. We do have a sump pump in case it does. We have a heavy melt, because the water will just kind of seep it from the ground. And there's only been a handful of times we got maybe an inch of water down here, but it usually gets reabsorbed. And then the sump, and it goes into that bucket, and the sump pump will get it out of here, so that's good. But I'm going to keep this open for now so it can start airing out, and it looks good. I'll come back for those parsnips. One thing is for sure, the rabbits have been enjoying this cool weather. It's going to get hot again. There was a couple days that got into the hundreds, but they handled it fine. I freeze ice buckets for them. I like to give them lots of treats. Zucchini, some immature apples, they like those. Carrot. I've got 2 does, these are the ones on the end, and 1 buck. Still looking for an unrelated buck, but I don't plan on breeding them till next year, because right now gestation is about 30-ish plus minus days for them, and then at 3 months that's when you cull them, and I don't want them to suffer through the hot weather, so we'll do that next year. And plus we have plenty of food because we just had all our meat birds put in the freezer, so no hurry on that. It's just they're nice to have. Here are some of my herbs. I got hyssops, and I think this is bee balm. You can see the bee balm really got some mildew on it. That's the first year it ever happened. I may need to kind of thin it out to get more airflow into it. And all this here, to include in this bucket there, all volunteers. This is rue. Planted it from seeds or starts last year. Interesting plant. Got to be careful, I guess, when you pick it, because the sap can kind of cause a rash maybe. But all the flowers are just doing wonderful this year. Again, this cool weather helps them, and they just keep reseeding themselves. Some years I get a lot of black-eyed Susans, some years I don't. If you've never seen an oregano flower, they're starting to go to seed, so I got to get in here, start getting them off because I've got too much oregano. But it's great ground cover, but they're very pretty. Beneficials just love them, but I got a little too much. I went ahead and harvested a fennel. We got to start eating that before it gets too mature. This is my first successful year with fennel. This is a volunteer hyssop. Pretty. We've been getting a lot of zucchini. I grow a lot because you just don't know how much it's going to produce, but here in a little while I might start pulling a few plants so we're just not too inundated with zucchini. I did cut a lot of the leaves off to kind of help improve airflow. They're prone to different funguses as well, just like every other squash. But so far we've been enjoying a lot of that. The okra's a little slow this year, but it's a nice looking plant anyway. Now this plant here is a pumpkin. My friend gave it to me, he said it was another zucchini. I went ahead and took it even though I had too many, but that's okay. It's going right into my pumpkin patch. Those pumpkins underneath the hoops, those are pie pumpkins. So far they're just now getting little pumpkins on them, so hopefully they'll mature before the end of season. Our season's only about plus minus 90 to 100 days. That's why we have to start a lot of our warm loving vegetables like okra, pumpkins, and zucchini, and even pickles early on, and then plant them as plants because our season is so darn short. Depending on the year, we will get our first frost around the 16th to the 20th of September. So that's almost right around the corner here since it's the end of July. This is my sad patch of carrots. This is my second sowing. And it was Danvers half long and basically a rainbow color. I have a few, and that's fine. We don't eat that many carrots anymore. But I always like to have them on hand for soups and stews. But I might get a pound on. I'll be curious to know when they mature, if they're the orange ones or the multicolored ones. I have had in the past an issue with the multicolored carrots germinating. This is what I've been looking forward to. Pickles are starting to form. I like to get them when they're maybe about 4 inches long, so they're nice and crunchy when you put them in your canning. So I need to start training them up the trellis here. You can see the grasshoppers have been really loving on my cabbage, but it doesn't do much harm as long as they don't mess up the interior, but they're going to start forming their heads here real soon. We've been eating a lot of this oak leaf lettuce, really good. I planted that from seed, and it's really delicious. We enjoy that. More oregano. Don't know why I planted it. I had the seeds. I didn't want them to go to waste. So, but it's the spot that I didn't plan on growing anything anyway, so why not, right? These onions should be starting to form their seeds here soon. You can see they're starting to dry out, so I want to collect those for sure. They should be the Patterson variety. These potatoes have just done wonderful this year. Every now and again I like to pull some leaves over, make sure there's no eggs here from various plants. The humidity is starting to get to them. I have fungicide, but that doesn't always cure everything. But they are really tall this year. They're almost half as tall as I am. They must really love this spot. You can still see this tree is loaded with the crab apples. I did find some bugs on them the other day. Oh, here they are right here. These are the mean bugs. Oh, dang tootin', I'm gonna get them right here. These are those terrible bugs. Got to kill them. They were mating, so got lucky. And you can see what they do. Let me see. This is what they do to your plants. Just decimate them. So that's why I like to come out and surveil my gardens, even if I'm not going to work in them that day. Get them while I can find them, and they seem to be more active in the mornings. So that's a good catch right there. Rhubarb's still doing good. Let me see if I can find a little mini pumpkin. Probably not, they're so crowded in here. Probably should cut off some of these leaves. Oh, here's one. Right there. Another one right here. These plants so far look good. Again, it's early. We've had a lot of moisture, but it hasn't seemed like it has been as humid as it normally is. But that's subject to change with the month of August coming up. I made my decision. This volunteer garlic, I'm going to go ahead and just rip out. So I'm just going to let it do what it's doing, because when I picked some and replanted it, they didn't do well. These here, volunteer potatoes, these are like 2 years old. I forgot to harvest them last year. These are German butterball. So I'll definitely get those out. They're a really nice potato. I enjoy potatoes. And this is the greenhouse garden. Looking good so far. I think another reason the gardens are doing so well this year, we've mostly got natural rain, and it's typically, it's nutrient from the sky. It's warmer. We have to water with well water, and it can be quite chilly, and that can shock the plants. I don't think they mind it when it's like 90, 100 degrees, but on days I have to water when it's in the 70s, it can be a little shocking to them. So I think that's been very helpful this year. Still haven't gotten around to planting my daylily, but you can see it's growing just fine. If you like flowers in your garden, zinnias are the way to go. They're long lasting, and also they attract beneficials. And the thing is, if you like cut flowers in your home, they last forever in the vase. This is something kind of fun. I don't know if you can see it. This bumblebee here. They just fall asleep till they're ready to wake up on a plant. Isn't that cute? It's not dead, believe me. That's just what they do. Tomatillos, I'm sure everybody knows what a tomatillo is. They form these like Chinese lanterns, and then the vegetable grows inside of it, even though it's technically a fruit, but we use them like vegetables. And then once the paper covering starts to brown and open up, and it's the tomatillo has filled the pocket of it, that's when you harvest them. And they can be, as you can see, all the flowers, they can be very prolific. Now, I like tomatillos to eat. I don't know if a lot of people do. Get a couple at the store, try them out, different recipes, make your salsas, or you can roast them, whatever you want to do, and see if you like them, then plant them. They have a lot, other than having to tie them up, they actually have less problems than tomatoes. Whoa, getting tall, love it. Cilantro, I'm going to start picking a lot of this today because I haven't had a use for it. And I even use them when they flower. They still taste like cilantro. It's no big deal, but I'm making something today that requires cilantro, or that I think it does. You can see I'm getting this. I forgot I had planted a cherry tomato, or grew one and then planted it. Usually I plant like 5 or 6 of them. I think I only did 1 this year. Let's hope so. But yeah, these are looking good. Oh, nope, this is a cherry tomato too. Guess I did more than I remember. This was a nice surprise. A volunteer catnip. Once we got rid of our chickens, all the weeds started growing again. And all of a sudden, this catnip was right here, and there was a whole bunch in there as well. So we're going to consider what we're going to do with this area next year. We may take some of it down, leave a little bit in case we ever do chickens again, but maybe plant grass in there so we can figure out not having all these weeds, because most of my weed problems come in from the seeds blowing in from the outside of my perimeter to where the weeds are along the perimeter. Now these pumpkins here are the fairy tale ones, and they're doing really good. I don't know if they've got any pumpkins again. I was concerned the ground might be too nitrogen rich, since our chickens were in there for, I don't know, 5, 10 years, or whatever it was. So we'll see what happens, but it's a good looking plant. Different color hollyhocks here. Nice old fashioned flower. So they look pretty. This one of my favorites, the darker one, the burgundy. I just let them reseed. They're easy to dig up if I don't want them. Pinks have really going to town. Oh, got me danger bug here. So this is swamp milkweed. Milkweed's doing real good, and I was real happy the other day. I saw get another, oh darn, he fell, get him later. Monarch on it. I was like, yay! Trying to get monarchs to come in my garden, and hopefully they'll start laying their eggs. I don't know when they do that. I need to research a little bit more. And more than likely, this is going to continue to spread, so I'll just have to dig it out where I don't want it. Beans are going to flower right here. You can kind of see a little bit. Got a volunteer sunflower. It's a volunteer moss rose. That's my thing. It's hard for me to cut out plants out of a garden. So I just let things go. And if it gets in my way, then I'll eventually tear them out, replant them or something. But the beans are just loving this cool weather as well. I don't know if you can see. Got a volunteer potato. This will be a Kennebec. I thought I got them out all last year because it was volunteers from the year before. So apparently I missed one. It's amazing how they can stay in the ground over our harsh winters and come back. Maybe we'll experiment, leave a whole bunch in, and I won't have to replant. But then again, you got to rotate your plants and your vegetables or whatever you're growing to avoid disease. But this is the month that these tomatoes will really start coming into their own, get prolific, start ripening. And if you've never eaten a tomato off the vine, you know, you see in the grocery store and vine ripen. But the difference between those, because they're probably grown in the greenhouse and eaten hydroponic, is these taste so good, and when they're warm from the sun and just perfectly ripe, it's just a treat. Just a treat. That's it. This is the well garden going to town. It's kind of ingenious the way these grapes are hidden from birds. And you can actually eat these grape leaves. That's kind of in a Greek tradition. You kind of blanch them, kind of like a cabbage roll-up type situation. And you can also actually do that with zucchini leaves too, because they're not poisonous, if you're so inclined. I've actually pickled some before. This is where the bad apple tree was removed. I still got to fill in that hole. Put up a little artwork here on my fence. I like to have cute things on my, still got to hang one. Nice thing is my butterfly weed survived from the excavation of that tree. And even if it didn't, it wouldn't have mattered. Harvested some horseradish. And as long as you leave a little piece in, it will grow back. As you can see, it can be pretty aggressive. The black pansies are still doing really well. I might not even plant anything there anymore, only because those darn plum trees just sucker so badly. So maybe I'll just have a field of pansies. These aren't blooming yet. Sometimes they do come back, but this is actually a real cute, almost like a robin's egg blue violet, real pretty. And it's getting really, really large. More pinks. I like all the variety colors of the dianthus. You can see just an array of different pink colors, white interspersed there. We harvested almost all of our onions here. Got a few left. Once I mentioned it before, once the greens start to up and over, and they're going to stop growing. And every onion is different. Some will be huge, some won't be, depending on what happens. This year with all the heavy rain, a lot of them fell a little early, so we got little ones. And that's just fine. Put them in salads or whatever. Potatoes are still working their magic. We've been fortunate that only one year we had potato bugs, and we got them early, so I hand-picked them. And that same year, I was very aggressive checking underneath the leaves for their eggs, got what I could find, and we haven't had them since. But every year is different. Like I said, I had those blister bugs for the first time in forever. I never had those before. Spaghetti squash needs to start performing as well. It's got, oh, here's one. There's one. So those are real nice. It's a good substitute for regular pasta if you don't want to eat pasta. I've been picking blueberries almost every day. This is one of my new bushes here. This one I was a little concerned about, but it looks like it's recovering. Maybe had a little transplant shock. I did keep the receipt and the SKU, so in case it doesn't make it next year, I can get my money back. Some more milkweed. This apple tree, these are the apples I've been kind of picking for my rabbits. Some of the branches are just getting too heavy, and I don't want them to break, because that's what happened to that Honeycrisp that we had to take out. Once it broke from a huge storm, because it was loaded with apples, that's when the disease started occurring, and it couldn't recover from it. So, and also if you want bigger apples, if you have multiple apples like right here, just pick one, the other one will grow larger. It's less stress on the trees. I won't go all the way through here, but this one here, I don't remember the names. I have them written down, but I couldn't identify them if I wanted to, because before they used to be in another location, and they weren't doing well, because at one time there was an oak tree, and they just weren't aggressive over there. So when I moved them here, they started really taking off, and I just kind of randomly put them in, so I don't know which ones are which. I know the names of them, but not which ones each are in. But every day I come out and pick a handful of blueberries. So far I've got 1 gallon Ziploc baggie. Now this seems like the other ones are just coming in here and there. My hope with this one is, because it's loaded, hopefully they'll all ripen pretty much at the same time. But if not, like I said, I'll just come out and pick. Weird thing this year is ants have been on them and kind of eaten them. The plum trees tend to attract aphids, which is wonderful because it attracts ladybugs, but the ants like to feed the aphids to get their honeydew, and I think they've been feeding some of the juice from the blueberries to them, because I've never had ants on my blueberries before. So I lost a handful, but we got plenty. Rose bush is still doing super good. Once my hips here turn red, that's when I will harvest them. Oh, looky here. More of those darn bugs. I think they're distracted. Oh, I lost one. And I got 2. Oh, got a lot of them here. You know what? I'm going to leave them there. I'm going to get my cup of soapy water. Just throw them in. They're not going to go anywhere. I'll have to get my soap and my cup here. So I'll get them here when I come back. I never had those hardly. Every now and again I might get 1 or 2, but this year again, I think it's just, just the weather related. Elderberries. Once the blossoms start falling off, that's when the berries will start forming, like every other plant. But you can see some of the flowers are just huge. And if you harvest the flowers, I think I mentioned before of course they go to seed, you make some teas out of them. Won't be long before we'll start harvesting the garlic. I don't want to harvest it too soon, obviously. It's kind of like the onions. Once it starts turning brown, that's when you can start pulling them. And then you have to cure them so they get that papery skin. These onions are doing fabulous here. Getting a little disease on the potatoes. Like I said a few minutes ago, even though I fungicide, sometimes you can't defeat the moisture we have up here. And right now, the sun's a little lower in the sky, so we're not getting that sun quicker than we normally do. So the moisture, as you can see, stays on the plants a little longer. Very humid up here. Not as much as it's been, as I said, but nonetheless. My few surviving pepper plants here. got one little pepper plant, or excuse me, a couple peppers on it. We're just growing jalapenos this year. I think I did buy some bales, but I didn't want to really sow them. Don't eat a lot of those. But I couldn't help it. At the last minute, I bought some plants at Fleet when they were 25% off. So there you have it. This is the orchard garden. don't want to neglect my market more cucumbers, slicing cucumbers. This is an old gate that was on our chicken cover there, so I'm using it as a trellis. So thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.